Paul has done this tax component for free. And I said, would you do a session for free, a webinar? And would you help people, coach them on how they can do this? And if they want you to actually do their paperwork and get the loans and so forth, they can work with you one-on-one, or they can do analysis with you. So I'm going to throw the ball to him now, and he's going to walk you through briefly. Here's what Australia specifically is offering, because I can't do that for you because I don't live there and I don't know the numbers, but he does. And so please give a virtual hand for Paul Sidorowski, my dear friend and partner.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, brother. Firstly, thank you, Tony. And last week when we spoke together with Tony, we went through, and what the common theme that was happening with a lot of small business owners was, while they saw the stimulus packages come out from the government, they were finding it really difficult to actually practically apply it in their business. And for the last 2-3 weeks, every time the government talks about a new stimulus, we've been helping clients strategically and practically, put it in their business. So when Tony and I spoke about it, I said, let's chunk this down, and I'm going to give it to you as practical and simple so you can understand it, and then how to apply it in your business. And if you need help, I'm happy to help you. So let me get some slides up for you guys. So what stimulus is actually available in Australia? I've chunked this down into the main 8 items. You've got the JobKeeper scheme, this 100,000 PAYG credit, the small business write-off, accelerated depreciation, ATO concessions, which I'll break down, the government-backed loans that Tony mentioned, and access to your superannuation. And even yesterday, you saw the commercial property leases that the government talked about. So I'll break all this down for you in real simple English. But before I go into that, you've heard Scott Morrison talk about this hibernation strategy. And this strategy, what it's really trying to do, this JobKeeper and the commercial tenant stimulus. So think about every business. They've got employees and they've got rent. Really, they're the 2 biggest expenses of any business. And this stimulus is all part of his hibernation strategy, where businesses need to close or they've had a reduction in sales. They're wanting to put it on pause or hold until the economy ramps up this next 3 to 6 months. So that's the whole premise for why he's giving us this JobKeeper and this commercial tenant stimulus, plus all the other ones I mentioned, which I'll go through in a moment. But that's the whole thing. They're waiting to keep us on pause until the economy grows, and it will. Everything will come back. Tony just mentioned it. It has to come back, and then they'll focus their energy on the stimulus to grow the economy. Because all this stimulus now is to go, how do I chunk it? How do I get through this next 30, 60, 90, 180 days? And then there'll be another stimulus, which I'll talk to you about, that will ramp things up really fast. So I just wanted to explain that hibernation strategy. So let's go to the first one. This stimulus that came out last week is the biggest one, and it'll be legislated today. And the 2 parties are fighting over a few last point terms, but I'm going to give you the core fundamentals so you can apply it and see how you actually do it. So this JobKeeper scheme, these are the main questions that I've been getting asked about this JobKeeper scheme. And I'm going to go through them with you in real simple terms. And if you've got any questions, put them down. So the first thing, who qualifies for it? This is the first question, do I even qualify for it? For anyone who's got revenue or sales under $1 billion and estimate that your turnover has or will likely fall by 30%. So this is the key premises. Under $1 billion in sales, if you believe or your turnover goes down by 30%, you're entitled to this JobKeeper scheme. Over $1 billion.
If I could just mention, the key here is that even if you believe it, it doesn't have to have actually occurred, correct?
Absolutely. So and I'll explain that, Tony, in a moment. It's the turnover has to go down or will likely fall. And I'll explain that likeliness in a second. Over $1 billion, your revenue has to fall by 50%. Now, self-employed employees, no employees, you're by yourself, you're entitled to this if your revenue falls by 30% as well. So they're entitled to all that. So that's number 1, who qualifies? Number 2, what period can you measure for this turnover drop? This is the biggest question I keep getting. How do we work out when my revenue has fallen by 30%? Revenue has to or will likely fall in a month or a quarter, depending on your business activity statement reporting period compared to last year. So in plain English, what does that mean? If I'm reporting monthly on my BAS each month to the government, you look at that month, let's say April, we're in April, compared to April 2019. If your revenue will fall or is likely going to fall in April by 30%, then you qualify. If it's a quarter, so April, May, and June, compared to the quarter last year, you have to either fall or it's likely going to fall. And this is the piece about likely falling. So they're comparing your reporting on your BAS, monthly or quarterly, to the same period last year. That's what the legislation shows today, unless they change it today when they legislate it. Now, the government also has said, but what if my business wasn't even existing a year ago? They'll allow, it's the tax office that will allow or consider additional information for you to be able to qualify for this. And if the turnover a year earlier, so last year, if the turnover in that month or quarter in 2019 was not representative of a usual or average revenue, the commissioner will take this into account to assess whether you qualify. So plain English, look at your monthly and quarterly. They're going to compare it to the year before to qualify for this 30% drop if you're under $1 billion, which is most business owners, under $1 billion. Okay, so this is critical. People have asked me this question. And one more thing, this JobKeeper scheme is administered through the tax office. So that's why it's going to be assessed by the tax commissioner. And they've said that they will allow additional information to assess it. So how do you measure your turnover? Cash versus accruals. So if you understand that in plain English, cash is money in, money out, and you assess your turnover based on the money that's physically coming in. Accruals is when you're invoicing someone, but you might not be paid for 3 months. So the turnover is calculated based on how you're reporting for GST. So if you're reporting your GST now in your monthly or your quarterly BAS on a cash basis, then it will continue on cash. If it's on a quarterly on an accruals basis, then you'll do that for accruals basis. You can't change it now.
Paul, can I just ask a question to clarify, just as an outsider looking in?
Yeah. I
haven't heard what they get for it. You're telling me how they qualify, but what do they get? What's the possibility?
I'm getting to the punchline. I'm getting to it.
Start with a punchline.
I'm getting to it. It's next. I think it's actually,
you got it.
It's next. So, which employees can claim the JobKeeper? Because we're just trying to qualify. Employees, you have to have the employee in your books on the 1st of March, and they're still employed. If you've stood them down and you've rehired them, they apply. They've got to be full-time, part-time, and long-term casuals. The casuals, the ones I keep hearing about, you've got to be regular and systematic for greater than 12 months. For part-timers and full-timers, they don't need to be with you for 12 months. As long as they're an employee at the 1st of March, that's the critical date. Over 16 years, an Australian citizen, a resident for tax at the 1st of March, and you can't be getting JobKeeper from another employer. You can only get it once. So we're just qualifying. 30% reduction in revenue. You now know the periods to compare. You've got to have employees at the 1st of March. You employ people after the 1st of March, they do not qualify for the JobKeeper payment. So Tony asked, what do you get? So you must pay, as an employer, you must pay your employees $1,500 a fortnight before tax. And the government will reimburse you the $1,500 a fortnight for the employees that qualify. So once you qualify, 30% reduction, you've got the employees, all employees, at 1st of March, you pay them, let's say $750 a week. You pay them $750 a week. A month later, the government will reimburse you for those employees $750 per employee, or $1,500 a fortnight. So does that make sense, Tony? That's the benefit. They're going to get reimbursed from the government $1,500 a fortnight or $750 a week for every eligible employee in their business.
For how long? For how many? For 1 month or for 2 months? Unclear.
They're going to do this for 6 months.
Holy shit.
So this is available for 6 months. Wow. Now, this is critical, Tony. You said something beautiful. So let's say I don't qualify for April because I'm on a monthly BAS, but then I qualify for May and June. Then you start the program then. So you don't just miss out. You actually get to qualify for it. If the first quarter, you've got income coming in because you had a really good quarter in March and it's come through in June, but then it starts from the July, August, September, you get it for that quarter. So this is, it's eligibility on a month or a quarterly basis. So you must pay your employees. This is critical. So you must pay your employees the $1,500 to $100 a fortnight. And then employers are going to get reimbursed. So this is critical. Now, if you want to claim the subsidy for an employee, but you haven't paid them because you don't have the money, you go, I can't pay them. The government's saying they'll allow you to top up payment to those employees and then get reimbursed, okay? And the tax office will give us more guidance on this, but I'm just trying to simplify it. So real terms are in April. You're paying your employees now, whatever you're paying them. Either you're paying them $800, $900. If you're paying them under $750, you will not get the reimbursement for the $750. You must be paying them the $1,500 a fortnight or the $750 per week to get the reimbursement from the government. It is critical. So this is a bit of a timing issue in your cash flow. You're paying it out in April, you're going to get it in the first week in May. Okay? So how does it pay? It's through the single touch payroll system, which we're all on. So that's why the tax office is doing this. You should be on your single touch payroll system through the tax office, and the first payment will be paid in the first week of May. So for April, the fortnightly pay, you'll get that in the first week in May for 2 weeks' wages that you pay. The 2 weeks later, you'll get the next 2 weeks. So it's timing of cash flow, but you will get, and if you think about it, I'm going to show you how to practically apply this in a minute to how to really take advantage of it, or how to go, wow, what does this mean for me? How do I take advantage of this so that I keep my business going in hibernation? Remember, they want you to get through the next 6 months. And this stimulus, and Tony, it's better than any stimulus in the UK, New Zealand, and what they've done, it's longer. It's longer, and it's really
much longer. Ours is only, just to give you Aussies a sense, ours is only 8 weeks.
Yeah, this is 6 months. Now they're having a bit of an argy-bargy in Parliament about, does it last for 6 months if your business improves and so forth. Look, using the practical answer, if your business for the first quarter qualifies and then the next quarter goes up, well, you're not going to get it. It's the same as opting in and opting out. It's got to be, and there's integrity rules too, Tony. So if the government has been very clear on this. You try and rot the system, there are major penalties and even promoters of it. So you've got to make sure that at that 1st of March, I've had people say, oh, they weren't an employee at the 1st of March. Can I backdate it? You cannot. The tax office is doing this, and you're in the single touch system. They know already who is not an employee and who is. So massive, very important. Now, I get this question all the time. I'm a sole trader, or I don't even take wages. So remember, this is all linked to, you've got to be taking wages through the single touch payroll system. But what if I don't take wages? What if I take a drawing, a director's fee, or a dividend? So self-employed individuals with no employees, you will be eligible to get this payment as long as your turnover test, the 30%, and you'll get it paid in your bank account, in your personal bank account. So that's a tick. A partnership, only one partner can get the JobKeeper payment. So the $750 a week or the $1,500 a fortnight, only one partner in the partnership can get it. Number 3, a trust. Only one beneficiary. So if you're drawing out money out of your business as a drawing, as through a trust distribution, one beneficiary can get it. So this is really good from the government because they had no information on this, and they've brought it out recently. Companies, only one director can get the JobKeeper payment. And again, people with dividends who are not taking wages, one shareholder can get it. So the government has been great on this. And if you're getting these payments, you'll be able to still apply and get this $750 payment or $1,500 a fortnight. So let me go back. So that's the JobKeeper payment. So chunk it down, 30% reduction in your revenue compared to your monthly or your quarterly BAS to the year before. That's qualifying. It's only for employees who were with you on the 1st of March. You employ new employees after, they will not, you just won't get the $750 payment per week for those employees. You'll get it for everyone else. And I'm going to go through how to qualify for it, or how to really apply it in your business. So this, Tony, is probably the largest stimulus that the government has done. It is quite phenomenal because they're trying to keep all the employees connected in the business while their business is either shut down or they've reduced 50% in revenue. They're saying, pay your employees, we'll reimburse you, so they're still connected. And when the business ramps up again within 6 months, you can employ them again, and they've been receiving income. The alternative, they have to go and get the job seeker payment, which is with the government. They've got to get a $550 payment. So the government's saying, keep them employed, pay them, and you'll get $750 reimbursed from us. If you don't keep them and you don't pay them, they're going to have to go in the dole queue or, to job seeker payment and get $550 a week. So it's quite an amazing initiative by them, and I love what they've done. It truly is an amazing initiative. And if you're real and your business has gone down, let's say you make the estimate, Tony, that your business only went down, you thought it was going to be 30%, but it went down to 28% or 27%. The commission is going to have the discretion to say whether you still apply for it and whether you're still able to access it. So this is a massive. So that's number one. Let's go to number two. So this one was probably the first one that came out, and the way the government talked about it was like, wow, you're going to get $100,000 cash, but they're not giving you any cash. So criteria, under 50 million. What they're basically saying, if you've got employees and you're paying them wages and the tax that you've deducted out of their wage from January to 30 June, so the 6 months, if the tax that you've deducted from their wages is $50,000 between that period or up to, the government's going to give you a credit for that $50,000, so you don't have to pay it to the government, to the tax office. So they're literally saying to you, so let's give an example. I'm on $1,000 a week gross. There's $300 in tax, and I take home $700 a week. The government's, that's your benefit as the employer. I'm paying the person $700. The government's now saying that $300, we're going to give you a credit for that. You just won't have to pay it to us. Up to $50,000 between 1 January to 30 June. On top of that, whatever you get that benefit is from that 6 months, they're going to give it to you again in the first quarter in September. So they're going to give you up to 100,000. So if you've got 5, 6, 7 employees and you're deducting tax out of their pay, you have to pay that to the government. They're giving you a credit for $50,000 from January to June, and then another $50,000 in the first quarter. There's $100,000 benefit to you. If you've got no wages, or you've got no employees, if you've got no tax being deducted from the wages, you're going to get $10,000 as a minimum before 30 June, up to the 6 months, and then another $10,000 in that first quarter. And how you'll claim it, it's going to be in your BASs, monthly versus quarterly. So right now, we'll be doing our BAS for the March quarter or month. You'll proportionally get that $50,000 in April, May, June monthly, or you'll get some of it now for the March quarter and the rest of it in the June quarter. So they're giving you a credit for $100,000. So they're not giving you cash. Remember, the cash benefit to you as an employer is the net payment to your employee. So $1,000, less tax, $300, you're paying the employee $700. You may never have to pay that $300 to the government. This is what the credit is about. There is no cash incentive. It's a credit off your business activity statement. So I want to make this really clear because people thought they were getting this money, but it's a real benefit. It's $100,000 or up to for the next 6 months. It's as simple as that. So third one, small business asset write-off. So this is not new. We had this write-off order in place for assets that you bought under $30,000. So basically, Tony, if you buy an asset in Australia in a business under $30,000, you get an immediate tax write-off. That's what we had in Australia.
Wow.
What they've now done is increase that to 150. If your revenue before had to be under 50 mil, now they've increased it to 500 mil. But anyone under 50 mil or under 500 mil, you buy an asset before 30 June, this is key, 30 June 2020, for 150,000 or less, you'll get an immediate tax write-off. And the date is that 12th of March, when they all announce this, up to 30 June, you'll get 100% tax write-off. Now, after 1 July, the revenue comes down to 10 million and the asset write-off is $1,000. It's over. So this is a big...
You guys, if you're thinking of anything to make your business more productive, you want to buy it before June because that's incredible. They don't have that in the United States.
And this is crucial. And Tony, this is crucial. You are not getting any cash back. It is a tax deduction. People have asked me, they said, well, you know, there's 150,000. So if I buy a piece of machinery, am I going to get back 150,000? No. You're going to get a tax deduction at, let's say, 30%. That's a tax. That's your saving of tax. You are not getting cash back. If you've paid tax, you'll get tax back. But this is not. This is a tax deduction. I want to make it really, really clear. So the next part where they added onto this was saying, okay, what about if you buy an asset over 150,000? Well, in the first year, they'll give you a 50% tax deduction in the first year, and then it'll go to normal rules. And it's assets that you buy again from the 12th of March to 2021, 30 June. So they're giving you another year of this. To claim this for assets over 150,000, you get a 50% tax deduction, and then it goes back to normal rules. And again, there's no tax, there's no cash back. It's a tax deduction. Okay, so they're the four. Now, ATO concessions. People still don't know about this one, and it's so simple. What the ATO has come out, tax officer said, you can defer BAS payments, you can defer any tax payments or any debts to the 13th of July. So no payments have to be made, but you must apply for this on the ATO portal. So your accountant should be doing this for you if they haven't done it already. So you must go and apply. The third thing they said, they'll remit, so they'll wipe any interest and penalties up until the 13th of July. So you won't have to pay any penalties or interest on any debts or the BAS payments up until 13th of July, and then you'll pay them or enter into payment arrangements then. Now, the other concession the tax office have given us, and people again got this wrong, they said that you can vary your PAYG instalment. So what that is in Australia, it's tax in advance. So businesses have to pay tax in advance. So you would have paid maybe some tax in September quarter and December quarter. The government have said in the March quarter, you can get that tax back as free cash flow in your business and get a refund of it against your BAS, okay? You still have to pay the tax. You're not getting rid of the tax liability, but they're allowing you to get a refund in your March BAS to offset any other liability that you've got in that March BAS, but you still have to pay the tax when it's due next year, okay? But they're trying to give stimulus for cash flow to come in. It's a good incentive. If you paid it in September quarter and December, you'll get it back depending on what other GST you got to pay in PAYG in the March BAS. And again, this is all separate to that 100,000 credit for the wages tax, okay? That's all separate. 50,000 before 30 June and 50,000 in the first quarter, all separate. So you add them all together, this becomes a great stimulus package, truly does. Now, Tony mentioned the government-backed loans. So to really understand this, the maximum loans are 250,000. They're saying they can have these loans for 3 years. Now, all the banks have different rates, but they're around the 3 to 4% mark. They're giving you 6 months, no repayments have to be made on these loans, and no interest will be charged on these loans. They're unsecured loans. So you don't have to put your property up or your house up to get this loan. They're an unsecured loan, and the government's backing them by 50%. So here's the key, but the key is the last point. You have to apply for this loan through your bank. And I'll get to Queensland in a moment. You have to apply for this loan through your bank. So if you had a good business before the coronavirus hit, then you'll get a loan. And they're assessing businesses up until the end of January. They want to see numbers up to the end of January. If you're a good client, good customer, they will lend it. It's still under their credit policy. It's not just going to be free money that they're giving out. This is not free money. You have to apply. And so far, Tony, what I've seen the maximum one so far up to $100,000. The banks are saying, look, let's give you this amount and let's assess it as we go. So it's smart, really smart from the banks. But I'll get to it in a moment, what you can do. But in summary, you can get up to 250. There's no payment for 6 months of that loan. And then after the 6 months, what happens? People go, am I going to have to make all the payments in 1 month? No. What the banks are saying, they'll assess and recalculate over the 3-year term. So every bank is different, but this is an unsecured loan. It's government. It's the bank saying we'll guarantee 50% of it. But all that really means is the loan would have to go bad first, and the bank would have to come and get it from you. And then if they couldn't, the government would back them. That's why you've got to see this. It's a bank loan for your business. And if you're a good business before, they'll lend you the money. Now, early release of superannuation. I've got a couple more, and then I'm going to give you some real technical, real practical points how to apply this. Basically, they said superannuation. You can access $10,000 before 30 June and $10,000 after from your superannuation. Normally, Tony, in Australia, you can't touch this until 60 plus. So what you can actually get access to 10,000 of it before and 10,000 after. Who gets it? One, if you're on the job seeker payment, which is now you've lost your job and the government's paying you, you can access this 10,000 before and after. If your working hours are reduced 20%, so you've gone from full-time to part-time, you can access this $10,000. And if you're a sole trader, got no employees and you've reduced 20% in turnover, you can actually go and access this. Again, Tony, the thinking behind this is, let's get them through this next 6 months, give them cash flow to go and live, to go and spend. People aren't spending much anyway because they're at home, but let's get them through. So
do they get charged a tax by taking it early?
No tax.
That's great.
So there's no tax.
To give my Aussie friends a sense, in the US, they've done something like this, but you still got to pay the tax. You just don't pay a penalty tax for taking it early.
No,
so this is even a better deal than the US.
No tax. It was quite amazing. Don't get me wrong. You've had a lot of super funds that have been angry about this, but it's really a small amount compared to the 3 billions, how much money there is in the super. So now state government stimulus. Everything I told you there was federal government. Every state in Australia has different stimulus. So the biggest ones, so let me go to the middle one first, the business loans. Remember I mentioned the $250,000 loans, you've got to go to your bank. In Queensland, they've got a $250,000 loan you can apply in Queensland. That's only for Queensland government. If your business is in Queensland, you can apply for it. So I would be getting onto that and just get what you can to get you through. If you don't use it, you don't use it. At least you've got it. But that's specific for the Queensland government. Payroll tax. So in New South Wales, you don't have to pay payroll tax for April, May and June. They're wiping it. Someone asked me yesterday, Paul, are they deferring it? It is not a deferral. You do not need to pay payroll tax for April, May and June, 1 quarter. They've wiped it.
You don't ever have to pay it. It's
never have to pay it, ever. And in different states, so in Victoria, they're looking, if your payroll is under $3 million, they're going to refund you 3/4 of your payroll tax for the year. So, and now they're tweaking the $3 million payroll number, because that's going to happen. You're going to have people, complaining, saying, oh, I'm over 3 million. I want to get access to it. But that's Victoria. In WA, there's like a $17,500 credit they're going to give you against your payroll tax. So you must look at each state. They're all separate. And the rent relief, residential. I'll get to commercial in a second. The rent relief, if you're at home and you're paying rent, they've put a moratorium in place where you can't be kicked out. What people are having to do, but they're having to show their landlords or the agents how they've been affected. I've gone from this salary to this salary, and there is rent relief, and they're working together. That's what's happening on a residential. But let me get to the next one. This was yesterday, Tony, and we've been anticipating this. So this was a big one. Remember I said, what are the two biggest expenses of a business? Rent and wages. So they've dealt with the job keeper payment. Now it's the commercial leases. So if your business qualifies for the JobKeeper stimulus that we went through before, where you've got a 30% reduction in your revenue, then you'll be able to get this benefit of what the government's saying, commercial leases. So you'll be able to get a waiver, as in never pay it back, and also a rent reduction for an amount for 6 months. So let me give you an example. I thought the best way was an example. Let's say my sales have fallen by 40%. I will get a rent reduction of 40% from so let's say I'm paying $10,000 a month. I will now get a reduction of that rent from $10,000 by $4,000. So I'm only paying $6,000. Now here's the key. Of that $6,000, 50% will be wiped, 50% will be deferred. And I've got then, after the 6 months, to pay that back over 24 months, or whatever's left on your lease. This is quite extraordinary. Now, people have said to me, oh my God, what does this mean for landlords? Because I'm a landlord as well. What does this mean for me? The government's coming out and the states are doing this. This is why it's taken them so long to work out. Are they going to give land tax exemptions, council rates exemptions? It's what's going to come out. The landlords will not be left alone. They will get a benefit in state taxes and state rates and so forth with the amount that they're abolishing, that you never have to pay that rent, and the tenant cannot be evicted. You cannot be evicted for 6 months, which is quite extraordinary. And I'll tell you, Tony, this has been This has been such a pain point for small business owners because they're going, we've had to shut our doors. They're asking for rent. So this came out yesterday and more details will follow. So now, so there's the stimulus. In all, chunked it down to 8 items. But let me tell you now, what else can you do in your business? Number one, the employees is the biggest one. What a lot of business owners are doing is saying, wow, we've had a reduction in revenue. We don't need employees to be working 5 days a week. They're making their employees or talking to them, you've got to agree with them, to go from 5 to 4 to 3 days. And they're getting Tony, the amount they're paying their staff, down to $750 a week, which is the stimulus the government's giving them. So they're effectively having employees for the next 6 months and they're costing them zero for the next 6 months by going from 5 days to 4 days to 3 days. It's just like taking a pay cut. But
so what they're really doing is you're lowering your cost enough that the reimbursement the government gives your employees for free.
Absolutely.
That's unbelievable. That's the line you should have started with, brother. That's amazing, guys. There's nothing like this in the U.S. This is extraordinary.
So Tony, this is the piece that I mentioned. The small business owners don't know how to apply this practically. So while I said, yeah, the government's giving you this, and someone's getting paid $100,000 a year, which is $2,000 a week, the government's only reimbursing them $750. And if they don't know to go, well, we've had a reduction, talk to your staff, get them to go from 5 to 4 to 3 days, and it won't be everybody, and it's only for a short period of time. Remember, they're not spending anything. Now, Tony, a key part with this, they will go, but hang on, I've got a mortgage and I've got to pay rent. But the banks are deferring all loans and interest payments when you go and talk to them and show them that you've had a reduction in business and in your personal circumstances, and you've got rent relief. So really, reducing the salary to keep you in business and connected to the business is a smart thing, and business owners are doing this. So that's number one. You need to use that stimulus to apply it in your business, and that's the way to do it. Talk to your bank. Go and get a loan. Even if you don't need it, I would go and say, go and get a loan straight away. I don't care if it's 50 grand, 100 grand. It's there. If you're not going to use it, it's still there. Number three, go and defer your loan repayments and your equipment leases, because that's cars, equipment, anything you can defer for 6 months. And then they go, remember I said, you won't have to pay them back on the 7th month. The banks are indicating they're going to amortize that amount that you didn't pay over the term of the loan. Okay, so it's massive. Now, Tony, another one, another $750 payment. So another stimulus the government did, this is the quantitative easing, where they're literally throwing money out of the helicopter. They've done a $750 payment this week. So anyone who's on the job seeker, unemployed, they just got a $750 payment in their bank account this week. They're going to get another one in July. So literally just printing money and throwing it into the system. I want you to think about when they get that $750, where are they going to spend it? At the moment, they're spending it at fast food. I've got clients in the KFC game, McDonald's, they're getting benefit of this. So think about how... you can benefit in your business from that $750 payment. I'm telling you, they're paying it this week and next week. So you need to think, where are they going to spend it? And what marketing and advertising you're doing to capture that market. And again, in July, it's going to happen the first 2 weeks in July. The landlords, talk to your landlord. Now that we know the rules, get onto your landlord and work out what it's going to look like. They can't evict you. Massive, Tony, you spoke about this. Work out your break-even point. So working out, once you know the stimulus and going, wow, we're gonna put down our employees from this many days to this many days, you can work out a new break-even point. How much you need to bring in to make no money. And it doesn't matter if it's for the next 1, 2, 3 months. So this is critical. We're helping clients with this, and it's the most powerful tool because they get perspective to go, oh, wow, I don't need to bring in X amount when they thought it was so much. This is crucial, Tony. Get your tax returns reviewed for the last 2 years. With what's going on in 2020, it's going to have an impact maybe on what you did in 2019 and 2018. So get this done. And Tony, this one was quite amazing. And I got this from you, and you taught me this in one of the seminars over the last 10 years. So where were you? I remember you asking, where were you, Paul, in September 11 when it happened? And I remembered exactly where I was. I was in my lounge room, and I was watching with my wife in Australia. It was like 10 o'clock at night. And you asked and said, where were you, Paul, September 11 last year? And I had no idea. And this was linked to that whole emotional piece. When there's emotion attached to something, we remember. So think of it right now. What emotion do people have right now? It is in total fear. If your service levels are up through the roof, they're going to remember that. If they're down in the ground, they're going to remember that. I had a client through KFC, and I said to him the other day, when you're going through drive-through, you know, these employees just have to give a smile or have to do something different to create a connection because people are in so much fear. So just think, your service levels, you're going to be working harder than ever. Your service levels have to go up. And because why? Because there's an emotion attached to it. It's a negative emotion, but it's still emotion. And they're going to attach good and bad to it. So this is what you can do in your business now. So if you need help, do you need help to apply for the stimulus measures and how to apply them in your business? Do you need help with your break-even or cash flow? Or do you even need help with your BASs and tax returns? Because if you don't have them up to date, you cannot get the measures. It's as simple as that. You have to be up to date. And do you need help with a second opinion on your taxes? I'm happy to do this. And I spoke with Tony about this the other day. I'm not here to sell you anything. This is a value add to the team. On this, you'll see URL there on your screen, and the team's going to put that in the chat. Copy that URL and put it into your browser. Click on it. It'll send you to a landing page. Just fill in your details, click on it. It'll come directly to me. Now, I'm one human, so for the first 20 people, I'm going to reach out within 24 hours. I will personally reach out to you in the next 24 hours, and then after that, I'll just get to you as I can. Now, I have a full team behind me, but I want to absolutely be able to serve you with this and just chunk it down. And there is no cost to you. It's free. It's what Tony wanted to do with people that we love and small business owners that just need more help. So look, copy that URL. They should be in the chats. Click on it. There's some small details. And in there, these 4 questions, you can tick which ones you need help with. Do I need help with a stimulus? Do I need help with a break even, a BAS, or a second opinion? Click on what you want, and I will personally reach out to the first 20 within the next 24 hours, and then I will get to you as I can over the next week or 2. Look, hopefully that's been helpful, and that gives you a bit of perspective and practicality on how to apply that. I truly thank you for your time, and I hope that's helped. And please, any questions, I'd love to help you.
Well, that's what we're going to do real quick here. I know people have been in line for a while, but if you've survived through that, between he and I, it's like taking a drink out of a fire hose. So thank you, Paul. You deliver that so fast with such intensity. It's the same thing I'm doing. So all I can do is encourage you that if we're going to answer a few questions here just for a few minutes, but then if you really would like help, reach out to Paul. He'll do a few free analysis for you. And you need help in some way, he's there. That's why we put this service together for you. So we got some hand raisers there. So can I have our moderator help them out so we can see them on the screen and we can answer their question?
This question comes from Fuller Man and many others. Is there any benefit to setting up a new business right now?
Yeah, there is no stimulus to set up a new business right now. No, the answer is no from a stimulus perspective. But like Tony said, you could start the best business ever because there's fear and people that are going under. That's a different, let's just be clear that this is about stimulus. I always say to clients, don't go and spend money in a business for a tax deduction. The tax deduction should be the bonus. You want to go and make the right decision for your business. So I would suggest the same thing. If it's a great business idea, there's other competitors not playing in it, that's what I would look at. Not about
here's what I'd say too also. If you look at the largest and most successful businesses in the world, the Forbes 1000, you'll discover there's 4 economic seasons you could begin a business in. The springtime, that's when things are growing very rapidly and you push and it's easy to grow. A summertime where you've been growing for a while and now things go hot and stagnant and difficult and you're like, what the hell? I've been working my ass off. Where's the crop? You got to make it through fall. In fall, there's huge rewards disproportionate to your efforts because if you planted in the spring and made it through the summer, you reap in the fall. If you don't plant in the spring, you weep in the fall. And even after the fall, when everything's great, which is what we just experienced in one of the greatest economies in history, then there's a winter time. Now, you don't need to fear winter. Winter can be one of the greatest seasons of all because most people are fearful. If you do well in winter, you dominate. So if you look at the Fortune 1000, most successful companies on earth, you can see that every one of them was started either in a recession or a depression, which would be what we call winter time. And I can do everything from Federal Express to Pizza Hut to Chevron, Disney in a depression, Chevron in a depression, Federal Express, done in a recession, Apple in a recession, Microsoft in a recession. I mean, I can go through a list after list of the thousands. 65% of the Fortune 1000 most successful companies in the world were started in wintertime because everybody's freaked out and they pull back. And if you pull back, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So this is a time to strengthen your business, tighten it, know your numbers, know your cash flow, make the tough decisions, and get strong and over-deliver for your customers, and you will build a relationship like no other, and you'll get raving fan customers, not satisfied customers. Satisfied customers go away. Raving fans stay. So it is a great time to start a business because people are fearful, especially if you can find a niche or deliver something a little differently, a little better for the current psychology that people are in. Great question. Let's go with another.
Our second question comes from Harry Kalla and many others. What's the process for part-time employees?
So part-time employees, again, if they're there from the 1st of March, they're a part-time employee, they're eligible. They'll be eligible for it. They've got to be there at the 1st of March. So there's no real difference whether it's got to be full-time, part-time, or a casual. The casual's the only one that's got to be there for 12 months on a repetitive basis. So other than that, that's the only criteria.
Okay, another question?
Okay, this question comes from Ryan Shackley. What about a business that's been operating for less than 12 months?
So the government, the commissioner will allow, he's got the discretion to actually show that, so what may happen there, let's say you're only been trading for 6 months. They'll look at the BASs for the last 6 months and then look at your BAS in this quarter and then allow you to apply for the 30% reduction. So that's the discretion the commissioner's got for businesses that haven't been going for 12 months and where the period before was not reflective of their true turnover last year compared to now. They might have had something extraordinary happen last year or not have a great trading result, which is comparable to now, but there was circumstances and the commissioner will allow you, they've got discretion to give you this. So it's actually great.
How about, I heard you say for Australian citizens, what if somebody has a working person, not Australian, but they have a visa, an appropriate visa? Does it cover them or not?
It does, Tony. So let me just give you the visas that are covered. This is important because a lot of cafes and business owners have overseas, people that are in with a visa. That's why I brought it up. So they've got here special category subclass 444 visa holder at the 1st of March. So they've got to either have holding a permanent visa or a special category like a subclass 444 at the 1st of March. They can't go and apply for it now. That date, Tony, is so critical, the 1st of March.
Okay, let's do another question. We'll do about 4 more questions, 4 or 5. Here we go. Real quick ones.
Hey, this question comes from Kelly Burton. Our revenue has increased 3 times over. How can we make the most of these incentives through loans for assets and then using that full write-off?
Absolutely. So if you look at if I chunk down the key items, the only one that you won't be entitled to is the JobKeeper scheme. So you still can get the $100,000 PAYG credit. So there's $100,000. You've got the small business write-off, accelerated depreciation, still get the ATO concessions to defer as much as you can. Remember, you're still going to have to pay it back, but it's about using that to invest in your business to even grow even further. So you still get all those stimulus other than that JobKeeper scheme and the rent reduction. But if your revenue's gone up, that's an awesome result. That is truly fantastic.
That's really cool. Another question.
Yep, and this question comes from Michelle Wickham. Is the reimbursement through quarterly BAS credits rather than cash reimbursement?
Yeah, so the JobKeeper payment is cash. This is not a credit. You are physically going to get cash. It's not through the BAS system. You are going to get cash. The $100,000 that I talked about, the 50-50, that is a credit through your BAS, but not the JobKeeper. It is cash. It's reimbursed.
Another question?
Yep. This question comes from Renee Chanel and many others. Are there any business grants for online specialists to assist other businesses?
At this stage, no. But one thing I do know, this is the 3rd or 4th stimulus. There's going to be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. They're going to
happen all over the world, guys, because it's going to take more than the stimulus to get the economy back. And so governments all over the world, major governments, are already looking. Like my country, they did a 2.2 trillion stimulus. We're in the middle of applying for and they're already working on another trillion. So I think you're going to find there'll be additional. And if you get in the system and start using what's available, you'll already be recognized. It'll be easier for you to apply for any additions or extensions.
Yeah. And remember what we said before, they're going to switch from survival stimulus, they're going to switch to stimulus to grow the economy. So yeah, I'm quite excited about what that's going to be because, they'll be talking about this in cabinet now about the next 6 months.
I see somebody's asking a question saying, Tony, what are your thoughts on the $10,000 early release and taking that from your super and investing it in share market now? I wouldn't give you that personal advice. You have to evaluate, all decisions need to be based on you have a better investment. I wouldn't take it out of there where it's in a tax protected environment and invest unless you were certain you had a better investment. And even then I wouldn't do it just on a one case basis. The whole idea of what makes people successful, I interviewed the 50 most successful financial investors on earth. All, by the way, started with nothing and became billionaires. Nobody from the Lucky Sperm Club. They had to do it on their own. And when I interviewed all of them, they said that the most important investment decision you're going to make is not whether you buy Apple stock or whether you buy this piece of property, it's your philosophy you're investing. In other words, what's called your asset allocation. How much money do you keep in an area that is low risk with low return, but it protects you to fight another day? What percentage do you take at a little bit higher risk with potentially higher returns, but also potentially larger drops? And so is it 60-40? Is it 80-20? Is it 20-80? These numbers are affected by 4 things. Number one, it's affected by, when do you need the money? If you're 30 years old and you don't need the money to retire for 35 years, you can take more risk. Does that make sense? You could do more in a risk environment because you have time to make up for it. If you need the money in 5 years, you're going to have to be a little bit more risk adverse, even though you'd like to get a greater return because you can't afford to try and make up the losses. So when do you need it? Another criteria for you would be looking at, okay, what's your real level of cash flow availability? If you got a lot of extra cash flow, you can take some risk. If you don't, you're gonna have to be tighter. Another one is what's your real risk reward analysis of how you deal with risk internally, emotionally. Because if you make investments and then they put you in even more stress, the only reason that you're making the investment in the first place is to have enough money so you won't have stress. So a lot of people think, oh, I'm risk adverse. I mean, I'm not risk adverse. I can take any risk until they lose money. So some of you have been to my wealth programs, and very often in the middle of the program, I'll suddenly just say, stand up. I'll say, reach in your pocket and make change with the person next to you. And they'll look at me funny. I said, I'm going to turn a piece of this music on. I want you to make change. Go make change with people. People start kind of getting confused, and somebody will take out $1 and trade it for somebody's $5 or some change, whatever. And this goes on for the length of the song. At the end of the song, I always say, okay, and we just move on. And I pretend like nothing's happened. Invariably, a couple of people in a room, a couple thousand people are pissed And I'll say, what's the matter? And they'll say, oh, well, I want my $100 back. I put $100 out and this asshole gave me $1. And I want my money back. I said, first of all, who said it was your money? And second of all, who said the game was over? See, if you're stressed about $100, you're not going to be able to make much of an investment, because if you're an investor, you're going to lose money at times. The best on earth lose money. Anybody tells you otherwise is a liar. So I would get professional advice on that. I wouldn't do it willy-nilly in terms of taking the money out. Let's go with another question.
All right, this question comes from Jack Hoy Hoy. If we have our own small business and we employ ourselves only, is it best for us to reduce our own income so we can receive the JobKeeper payments?
Yeah, you do not need to reduce your salary to get the JobKeeper payment. They're just going to give you $750 a week or $1,500 a fortnight towards the salaries you pay. If you're under $750, you won't get it. So the critical item is you've got to be paying yourself $750. Now, I saw a question, is that a gross payment? It is, and it's inclusive of super. So superannuation, so in Australia, 9%. So if you're paying someone saying, I'm going to pay my employees $750 including super, then they're probably going to get, $725 gross, and then you can put super away. So, but you don't, the answer is it's got to be $750 or more, and you do get the $750 from the government as a reimbursement.
2 more questions.
All right, this question comes from Deepika Pala. And what about rent freeze? How does that impact residential landlords as the interest keeps accumulating on the loan, even when there is a loan freeze?
It does. So working with their banks, they'll freeze their loans for 6 months. And then remember what I said, they will amortize that amount over the term of the loan, 25 years. So truthfully, they won't see a major impact on their repayments when things go back to normal. When the tenants start paying the rent and they've got their jobs, there will be a real slight difference to their repayments. That's what the governments are doing. And one more question that I saw as well, Tony, this rent relief, someone said, what if I've closed my doors and my revenue's gone from 100% to 0? Do I have to pay any rent? Per that, you would pay no rent for 6 months.
Wow.
And out of that rent, 50% of that, whatever the rent was, is wiped. You will never pay it. And the other 50% will be paid over 24 months or the rest of your lease, whatever terms left on your lease.
Wow,
so
really
it's quite extraordinary. The details will come out then what the landlords will get benefit, which I mentioned before.
All right. This question comes from Trent Rosenthal. We're looking to appoint 2 new staff members to build and invest in our business. Now, how can we continue to invest in the future of our business and leverage a form of incentive?
Yeah. So again, you can. The only one you won't get is that JobKeeper payment because they weren't there at 1 March, but you'll still get the $100,000 credit. You'll still get the asset write-off. Yeah. So now, unless they change this piece in the legislation saying, well, at 1 March, I had 10 employees. I now still have 10 employees, but I've got a change. They may change it, but it's not out yet. So they may tweak this as they get a bit of pressure along the way.
This question comes from Eddie Salisbury. Are there any more real estate specific items in this stimulus bill that we should be aware of?
Other than the residential and commercial rent, there is no specific to the to that industry, but applying these applies to that industry. And I've got a ton of real estate clients that are doing this. Their workload is reduced. They're reducing their staff, employee wages to around the $750 mark, where it's going to cost them nothing to have those employees for the next 6 months. But they're still working. They're still getting systems in place because you're going to come out of the other side. You need to make sure that you're working on systems and doing things so that you can really capture the other side. And I can't stress enough, you must talk to your customers. Get in front of them, talk to them, care for them. This is not about getting more money out of them. It's about really just seeing how they're going because they'll remember. This is the time they're going to remember.
You also have to remember that, if even there's a problem with a client, if you take care of the client and you over deliver when there's a problem, even if you've messed up, you've screwed up, all businesses have times where they screw up. A system breaks down, a person messes up. That's part of business. But your relationship will literally be deeper and stronger. You will create a raving fan by dealing with a real problem in a quality way. When most people run, if you'll run towards the problem and solve it, you're going to find those people become your raving fan clients. And so this is a real time. I remember in 2008, you know, Steve Wynn is a friend of mine. He built half of Las Vegas. Most of you have been to Vegas, you know. And, you know, everybody was freaking out. He came to my business mastery program and he was sitting in the front row. And I don't get nervous. I've done this stuff for years, but I was like, what the hell do I teach him? He's a billionaire multiple times over. He built half the city. And the seminar was in Vegas. And he sat through the program and everybody was freaking out. It's 2008. And my number one message was, this will not last forever. It won't even last as long as you probably think it will be. You need to really over deliver for your clients right now. When everybody else is pulling back, you give more. And if you do it, they won't forget that. And Steve left the meeting, asked me to go to lunch with him, and said, I got so much out of this, you have no idea. And he took the Wynn hotels and Encore that he had. They were bleeding at the time because people weren't going to Vegas in 2008. The money had dropped through the floor, very much like now, only it's even worse now because they shut everything down, forced it shut. And he decided, what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a beach club right off Las Vegas Boulevard. And I'm pulling a new client from this. He laid the whole thing out right there at lunch, decided when he's going to do it, how he's going to do it, made the investment. And guess what? When everybody else is pulling back, he over-delivered. He got all the Four Seasons business. He got everybody else's business. And when the economy came back, they stayed as clients. And they all talked about it. So my whole thing in life, what makes you successful in business is the same as life, is the same as the spiritual part of your life. Give much more than you expect to receive, and I promise you, you won't have to worry about receiving. So this is a time to take care of your employees. That's why I take advantage of these opportunities. Keep as many employed as possible without hurting your business so you can fight another day. Find ways to do more for your clients. I'm here with you. Listen, I got a lot to do. I just took 2 hours. I could have handed this thing off because I want to hear so I know more how to help others of you as well from Paul. But we're here to make sure you're taken care of. I don't got any economic interests at all. I have your best interests. And when you want something in the future, come to Business Mastery or come to Date with Destiny or Unleash Power. They'd love to have you. But if you don't, I still want to help you any way I can. You can count on us to keep bringing you the best. Now, we'll make this site available for some of the people that missed it. And most importantly, let's throw back up there how to contact Paul. So if you want to work with Paul one-on-one, reach out to him right away. And if he'll take the first 20, and after that, he's got a whole team, but he wants to personally understand what's going on with you. Some of you are bigger business, some smaller. But long-term, he can help you in a variety of areas, as you already showed. I hope you've got great value for yourself. I hope you can leave here with a little less fear, if not no fear. And then for those of you that want some additional coaching, reach out to Paul. Numbers there. God bless to everybody. Live strong and with passion. And let's live to fight another day and take our businesses and our lives to the next level. God bless.